welcome back everyone to the podcast. I am so excited to have Nicole with me here today. We're going to talk a lot about compensation strategy, accountability, funding, scaling and growing your practice. And if you have not thought about those topics, now it's a great time to tune in and listen to the end, because we are going to be working with Nicole on what was her journey like growing her own practice and ultimately selling it and coming out on the other side to help other practice owners grow their firm. So she's seen it all. She's done it all. And I'm so happy to have her here today. If you haven't met me, I'm Carla Titus. I'm the founder and CEO of Wealth and Worth Within. We're a fractional CFO firm providing services to growing practices who want to get more profit, more cash in the bank, and pay themselves better. So Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself for our audience today?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I am a retired psychologist. It's still very weird that coming out of my mouth, turned business coach. And for 15 years, I saw couples, I did EMDR, and I absolutely just thought I would do that for my life. But 15 years of holding trauma, I honestly became tired. I became burnt out. And really honestly, since we're talking about wealth, I became sick of hitting the ceiling in my income. I had to sit in front of somebody to have the life that I wanted. And it was, I saw way too many clients, Carla. Like, I'm not even going to tell you how many I saw. I had a great life, but how much I had to work to get there was a lot. And then 2016, I become pregnant with twins. And I'm like, oh my God, two strollers, two cribs, two high chairs. I need a bigger house. Like, I live in Toronto. How do I even do this? And that's when I said, okay, I need to hire. So guess what I did? Nothing. I did nothing because I didn't know the first step to take. And I wonder if your listeners feel that. I was terrified to do it wrong. So fast forward 2 years, Jackson and Lucas are born. Mommy's still working every night until 7 p.m. I spent 1/2 an hour with my babies. That was not the motherhood I wanted before they went to bed. But there was this one fateful night. I just remember pulling in their chubby faces against the window, waiting for mama. And I just broke down and I walked in and turned to Dan and I said, I'm hiring. I don't know how, but I'm going to find a business coach. Fast forward 3 years, I had 55 therapists and multiple 7 figures. If I can do it as a new mom, my friends, like, let me show you the way. But here's what I'm proud of. It ran without me. I built it to be home more. And when you do that, it is just a matter of time before somebody wants to buy it because you have a revenue generated machine. And I sold it 4 years later to a psychiatrist. And now I teach people how to do exactly that.
That is so amazing. And it just also speaks to the power of motherhood, because to be honest,
100%.
a lot of us are so motivated by creating wealth, by building these businesses that also serve the purpose we want to serve in the world while still making money, because it's not either or, it's yes and. And we want people to get better at that. So that's why we're here today, because I want to unwrap all of that, Nicole. The first step taking, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to dive right in. And I'm sure you did a lot of things, not in the best way possible, but you kind of found your way through it. And of course, you're saving this pain to everyone else that you're helping. But let's talk about that hiring piece, because I feel like it sounds like that was the first step to moving the needle, to starting to grow the practice. And you couldn't do it if you didn't have people. And that is a theme I hear a lot of people have a hard time with, finding the talent, compensating them the right way. They don't even know, right, what the numbers should look like. So let's start with that. How do you go about hiring the right clinicians for your practice?
Yes. Now, just to be clear, please don't hire first, systemize first. I help people systemize, because if you hire first, and a lot of us therapists do, we're just like, well, just throw it on Indeed. You will not be a CEO. You will be a CQA, a chief question answerer. If nothing is written down and it's all in your head, guess who they're going to? You. So that's the first step, but hiring. Okay. Please, please, please don't overpay. Therapists have the biggest hearts. I help them reverse engineer the numbers. So picture a pie. I'm a visual person. So you collect the full pie from the client. But we'll just go with fully licensed numbers. Okay.
Sure.
Assuming they're fully licensed, you don't want to pay over more than 60% ever. And that's if they're a contractor or if they're an employee W-2. And an employee W-2 is way more complex but if you think of the pie, and then 60% will be paid to them. But when I say paid to them, I mean all expenses. That includes the admin time, benefits, offer those later, by the way, their taxes, FICA, like all of the things. Canadians listening, that would be CPP and EI. So I say work with somebody like Carla, please, 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 because I'll tell you something. I've worked with over 1,000 therapists in the last 4 years. They make the two biggest mistakes before they work with me, and I'm sure with you too. They're either paying too much and that's hard to come back from, or they have awful contracts that don't protect them. We have a lawyer in my program that fixes all that. We send them to people like you, but I would start there, reverse engineer the numbers.
Yeah, that is so important. What you said about that 60% or better, by the way, because if you're talking about associates or pre-licensed, sometimes we will pay
50.
less because they are not experienced yet. They will ideally get their hours, get licensed with you, grow with you over time. And you need to have room to increase their pay when they get licensed to earn better in the practice. So this is why this math is so important. And what you mentioned about all-in cost, that is total compensation cost, including everything you do. Like if you get creative and you want to do wellness benefits or pet insurance or whatever it is, that needs to fit in there too. Therefore, you cannot hand them 60%. Otherwise, you're already there and there's no wiggle room for anything new or creative or added benefits that you want to do for your people over time. And also remember, they need a pay increase too. They are expecting to get paid more over time because inflation is real. Things cost more money. They may have kids and twins with double strollers they have to purchase. And so they have to be able to fund that because the practice needs to be able to continue to keep them in the practice by compensating them the right way. Obviously, if you have average reimbursement rates going up, that will help you, afford some of those. But we really have to do the math because that will be the clarity you need in order to prioritize both profit and the right compensation strategy for your people.
Yes. My commitment is that they're at least 20% profitable. So you want to be always being like, okay, we'll start at the top if I want to keep 20%, and then I only have 20% for overhead. And then you work with Carla and you do a projection sheet and you stick to it. But if we can just double tap on hiring pre-licensed, that was one of my favorite things, because in what industry can you change who you hire and keep an additional 10%? And I actually went even better in some ways. I hired interns, and in a lot of the states, and I'm in Ontario, although I work with the majority of Americans, we don't pay our interns. So Carla, my first six hires were interns. Was it a lot of work for supervising? Yes, it was. But I told, it's like, guys, if you're listening to this, what do you want more? If you want to bring in more money, it's going to take more work in the beginning, the supervising, etc. But it's a season, and then you're highly profitable. And then I took that money, and guess where it went? I fed the business, and that's called the snowball effect.
I love that, Nicole, because a lot of people shy away from the intern conversation because it is tough, right? Like you're taking this baby therapist, growing them into toddlers and preschoolers, and then eventually adults that are producing for you without supervision. But that supervision piece, it's something you could put and invest time into if you choose to go that path. Otherwise, you can go the path of more experience, but just know it's just not going to be as profitable. And what you said about a season, it is like that, right? Sometimes we have these hardworking seasons, and I don't think anybody ever talks about that, to be honest. Like, I think it's the first time I hear you say, actually, there is hard work to getting a business started.
Yes. It's like building a house, and my God, the bricks are so heavy. We all want to get to the place where like, oh, it's just like fresh coat of paint, but that is not in the first year, my friend. Sorry.
Yeah. You got to build a foundation. You got to frame it. You got to dry it. Like, it's just so much that goes into that process. And I think a lot of people skip from that. I broke ground to I have a beautiful house that is the biggest, the best, the well decorated. And it's just not that way. It's like you have the hard work in to build that foundation for strong growth. And I think I love what you said about systemizing at the beginning, because what's in your head is not in writing. Nobody else knows it. So you have to document it. So when people come to you, you can be like, here's a document you reference. And I think this is huge because it leads me to think about the journey on accountability that a lot of group practice owners sometimes shy away from, because this is where the hard conversations happen. And this is honestly where the profits go to hide. And we know it because we've run the math for so many businesses that we work with on group practices that hire clinicians. They're not hitting their goals and they're frustrated. And they're like, why am I not making money? Why am I break even or maybe even losing money? And we look at the numbers and we right away can tell they have not just a compensation strategy issue, which we just covered, but sometimes an lack of accountability issue. And holding those expectations is hard because they don't want to be the the boss or the angry person or the one kind of pushing their team. But as a leader, you have to show up differently. So tell me about your journey on this accountability conversation, because I know that was huge for you too.
You were talking to the right girl. It was really hard for me because the truth is I'm a control freak, and I didn't know how much a control freak I was until I hired. I think that we worked so hard to go to school for so long and have this reputation, and it just feels so vulnerable to say, I met you on Indeed 5 minutes ago. Here you go. Here's my reputation. Instead of having my people pleasing part come up, because it still comes up, I relied on systems. So I believe in 90-day check-ins with clear KPIs. So key performance indicators to hold them accountable. So you're not the bad guy, that this is just, you're both working together to reach a goal, and I'm going to coach you and train you to reach the goal. To be clear though, if you have contractors, you can't use the word KPI. We don't want the IRS or the CRA to say that's an employee, okay? Just FYI. So I call them check-ins, and like you want to be loose with the KPIs. But in the end, they want to be busy. So when you're holding them accountable, if you talk to like what's in it for them, if you improve your conversion rate and retention rate, I'll help you, but this will help you stay busy. And if they don't want that, then they shouldn't be on your team. That's just the wrong person.
Ooh, that's such a hard truth. And I'm sure a lot of people are out there shaking because they're like, wait, what do you mean they're not right for the practice? And what we mean is there's a business side to what we're doing in the practice that allows us to pay people, that allows us to provide them benefits, that allows us to afford the admin support, the EHR, all the things that you need to run your practice. And you cannot do that if the people that are working here are not contributing to the goal in the way that you have set those expectations. And I love that you said KPIs, because we love key performance indicators around here, because we're all about the number. The data doesn't lie. And we always say, if you are having a hard time, you need to go check your numbers, because they have a story to tell and they'll tell you where to focus, where your gaps are and how to close them. And if you don't know how to close them, reach out because we can help. The expectation holding becomes the harder part. But as a business owner, as CEO of your company, this is your job. This is your job, to hold your people accountable. And no matter how hard it is.
Now, exactly. Now, there are good hires and bad hires. I almost like, we want to go with the A+ people. So often in my coaching, if they're like, I don't know, Nicole, like I've had the check-in, there's clear KPIs. I always say, if there's a B performer, start at the beginning of the story. How was the interview? How could we learn from this perspective? I help people create the best job postings. I call them love letters, because it starts there. And I believe your first hire should actually be your mini-me. I have a 6-step hiring model, and we give them personality tests, Carla. We give them certain tests to make sure that they're hard workers, because in the end, you can be a great leader. But if you're following all the things and it's still not working, there's no progress, and they're not coachable, then they're just not the right hire.
Yeah. And sometimes that is just a hard reality, and you have to deal with that, and it's no fun, but it's better to deal with it early on, that when you've scaled to 10 clinicians and all of a sudden you're like, why is this not working? Or why am I losing money every month? And then you feel stressed and you feel like you can't do anything to change it. But those 8 players, right? Key people that want to earn. They want to be here because they want to earn money, and they're willing to do the sessions needed, but also make sure that the practice is doing what's needed to set them up for success. Because I often see there's a disconnect between what the clinician wants to achieve and the number of active clients that they have. And maybe they're not the right number. And so that creates a gap already where they cannot meet their expectations because the practice is not doing their job, bringing in the intakes and the new patients to the clinician to fill up their caseload. So it's both ways, right? You got to hold yourself accountable as a practice owner to provide the right setup for success. And you got to hold people accountable on their metrics to make sure they're achieving the goals that you have.
Exactly. That's a lot of what I do. It's like, what marketing actually works and how do you bring the clients in? And just one piece about coaching people. I want you to remind the listeners that you're a therapist. You're naturally a leader, my friend. I know it doesn't feel like that every day, but you really are. You're meant for this. You have high EQ. This is a conversation about influence. How do I influence? How do I persuade somebody to do something that I want? Okay. And the best way to do that is to use your therapeutic skills and show up curious, because then they're not going to be defensive. It's ask questions. Well, I'm noticing this, I'm noticing that. What are you noticing? Draw it from them. Because if they're talking, then they're not going to be defensive, and then you'll get results faster.
Yeah. And it's all about meeting them where they're at. And offering help. It's not necessarily coming down and being like, you're not doing your job. That never works, right? But saying, hey, how can I help you move the needle on this? Let's work on your retention. Let's work through what's going on with your treatment plans. Have we renewed those? Like, when was the last time we talked about how many sessions this patient should be having? You're an experienced person. Obviously, you opened this practice because you've been doing this for a while. So use those skills as both a CEO and a coach to get them farther into their goals and help them be set up for success. And you will be surprised how many people that haven't had this conversation start to have them. And then also we quickly weed out who's a good fit and who's not a right fit. And sometimes we do have to deal with that turnover, which is not cheap and not great. But on the other side of that, it's a great profitable practice that runs with people who meet expectations. And that is where we want to get you to, so that you can be in Nicole's place, right? Where she has offers for her practice or can run it without having to be involved in the day-to-day as much. So let's just kind of go back to something you said around investing profit back, because that caught my attention when you said profit has many jobs. It has to pay taxes. It has to help grow the business. It has to put money in your pocket. It has to pay for that extra marketing bill you need to promote the practice. And if you are starving your practice of money because of personal needs or whatever is going on in your life, the practice is probably not going to grow as much as you want it to grow. So tell us a little bit about how you prioritize your profit towards growth, Nicole.
Yes. Just some background. I was a breadwinner and he was a realtor. So money would come, but then money wouldn't come, right? He sells a big house. And then for like 2 months, like there's nothing selling these days, obviously. So here's what I did is I saw clients again for a season. Because remember, I was also supervising a lot. I just told you, I saw clients to cover my personal expenses. Okay. And I did the math and I knew exactly how much that was. And I had a very clear personal expense sheet. And then remember that money coming from those interns. I took all of that money and I fed it back into the business. But guess what? The day came where, oh, there's some extra money left. I'm going to drop a client. Oh my God, more extra money left. I'm going to drop 5 clients. And then I just kept my supervision. So it's kind of like as the money came in, I dwindled down the amount of clients that I saw.
Yeah. And that's where you also start to build that cash runway you need to be able to be confident to drop the clients, right? Because you don't want to drop the clients unless you hit a dip or that season.
Actually, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Real quick? So aren't we lucky that we can turn up the tap? So if there's ever stress, I can just, all my clients still love me. I moved some of them over to my other therapist, but I could pick up 2 clients. And I'll tell you why we're so lucky. Sometimes we don't realize it because we're just in our industry and we know nothing different. But my husband, Dan, before he was a realtor, he owned a cafe in Roncesvalles in Toronto, busy area. He had a slow day. He couldn't call up a client and make some money. The fact that we can turn on the tap and have cash come in and just decide to see 5 clients this week is amazing. And a lot of other industries can't do that. So I feel like anyone's like about to take this step, just remind yourself if you're freaked out, like, oh, okay, like worst case, if it's slow, I can pick up clients. Not that I want to, but at least I can, because not all businesses can.
Yeah. And then you could also make a plan to transfer them later again if you need to, right? As things start to get better. And this is important that you're looking at your numbers and you know when your slow seasons are coming, that you know how much profit you have left. How much do you want to invest? Like we need to map this out in a plan, looking forward, not looking back. The backwards looking helps us get information that is useful on what we've been able to achieve. But the looking forward is we're crafting the future as we go. And the forward financial plan is going to inform a lot of those decisions on where we want to invest, how much do we want to invest, how much do we need to keep in reserves, and how many people we want to hire and when. Having that clarity allows you to move faster as an owner, because now you know, okay, if this happens and I'm doing this, not just making it up as you go, but really thinking about, okay, what comes next and proactively managing to that. Sometimes I think clients get surprised. So being intentional about how you're funding your growth is so important. And I love how you framed it, like what I need for my personal life versus what I need for the business to grow, because often business owners are depending on the money for the business to fund their personal life and other things that they want. And then the business over here screaming, hey, I need some funds too.
Well, how can it grow if you're not feeding it? So exactly, like feed yourself with your clients and then the business feeds itself. Because if you're taking taking from the business, it's starving and you can feel it.
Yeah. So tell us, at what point in your journey of growth did you completely get removed from seeing clients and didn't go back to seeing clients?
Oh my gosh. So if you can believe it, I decided January 2020, worst month ever, to stop seeing clients, not knowing what was coming.
Of course.
And then the world imploded. And I was so proud of myself that I still stuck to it. But it took me, honestly, a year and a half to let them all go. It's such an identity shift. So I had to like commit to it. And then it was a trickle. But I had 15 years, like a big caseload. 2 years in, I was like not seeing any clients at all. 2 years into the group practice. Yeah. Mostly because I loved it. And I always wanted at least to hold a few. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to let go of that because you have so much achievement and like seeing your clients get better with your support. But then you also need to be a CEO, right? And you need to grow this business.
Yeah, I think it really depends. If you have full time, I actually suggest hiring part time to start. It can feel really overwhelming. Full time, like the therapists are like, oh God, it just feels like pressure. You can start part time and kind of like move them up. I held on to my clients because I loved it, but also I rapidly grew. That's expensive. And I think people forget that when they hear my story. They're like, oh, I want to grow to 55 therapists in 3 years. But I had an 8-room office and then a 16, then 24 rooms. My rent was $25,000 a month. So because when you scale so quickly, the business needed to continue to like feed itself, right? So I kept those clients for a long time because I wanted to be big. I think if you want to stay small, you can let go of clients earlier because the business will require less. You don't need a bigger office, for example. And 6 admin, I had like 6 admin and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And rent percentages and like what you have to spend on marketing and what you have to have for billing and admin support is just a growing need. And you need to be able to map that out on costs so that you know how much profit is going back into your business to support that growth happening on top of hiring, because hiring is expensive and not everybody gets up to full caseload day one. It takes 60, 90 days sometimes to get them fully to case. Just because you hire them doesn't mean all of a sudden you got to get them to the point where you are making money and that it's self-sustaining. Then you have to take those profits and then go reinvest it back and do the next hire and do the next office space and do the next admin you have to hire. So you're really not seeing a lot of that for a while because you're just continuing this rinse and repeat cycle of profit investing back in the business.
Just jump in though, because if somebody's like, oh my God, I'm in that phase. I'm working with a lot of people in my program that are in that phase. And that's a tiring phase. That's the phase where you're carrying the heavy bricks, but you're not living in the house yet. And you're like, oh my God, I just want relief. Like, can I just get in this darn house and relax? Like, where's the couch? But remember that you are building an asset. It's an asset that I could sell. Yes, I have to see the clients and do the supervision and the CEO tasks in this season, but this is an amazing asset that was, oh my gosh, it's worth 1 million. It's worth 2 million. It's worth 3 million. So it does grow. So just take that background music.
Yeah, you will enjoy the house. But if you're burnt out, this is hard to hear because it means you will have to put in the work for so much time. You want to make sure that you are reaping the benefits of that hard work one day, and that one day might not come soon enough. And that's okay. Like if you're tired, maybe take a slow down period to level out before you grow again. And a lot of practices do this too, right? It's not every year we're going to double. Sometimes it's like, we're just going to maintain. And then next year we're going to aim for bigger, faster growth because we can afford it and because we're ready energy wise.
Definitely. Like it's okay to go slow. I'm going to say that twice because you need to hear it. It's okay to go slow and you coast. You deserve to coast. I think that if I was to do it all over again, Carla, I would have enjoyed, I didn't have to grow that fast. Think of growing pains. Like my kids are growing really tall. It hurts. Like it literally, there was moments where it hurt. It's just like, don't become obsessed with the end goal. I'm talking to myself right now because I can do that sometimes. Just really being like, you know what? I don't have to burn out. I can just take it at my pace.
Yeah, because burnout is real and we know it firsthand. And if we don't address it, it's going to catch up with us. As owners, we deserve to have an enjoyable business that thrives, and we will go through those seasons, and you get to choose when you go through those seasons. So if this is not a good time in your personal life to go push hard and grow the practice by double, then maybe you reassess when it's the right time. And that is totally okay. I know everybody's like, oh, grow big and sell one day. And Nicole was lucky enough to be able to enjoy that journey and that path to exit. Not everybody gets to do that, but preparing yourself for it and always being ready to go, it's going to set your opportunities up higher on the possibilities of selling your practice. So we always want to build a practice that's exit ready at all times, because we talk a lot about that here on being financially well off and having the right profits metrics in place. That means you will always be sellable. That means your practice is running well financially and is healthy and is sustainable. And then you don't have to burn out because you have achieved a level of stability that is important to carry on. And it's up to you what your goals are. Slow, steady also wins the race. What do you want and how does your practice serve you? Okay, Nicole, so tell us, where can people find you? This has been an amazing conversation. I want to make sure they can connect with you.
Yes, I have a podcast. If you're a podcast person, The Business Savvy Therapist. I also have a free masterclass. It's called How to Build a 7-Figure Group Practice. If you want to come and actually hang out with me, and I'll answer your questions live.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those resources. We'll make sure to put those in the show notes. And if you are looking for some support with your numbers, we would love for you to book a call with us on our website at wealthworthwithin.com. We would love to talk to you about your support needs, how we might be able to serve you, and really help you get clarity on the financial side of your business, still collecting the money, right? Which is the dream and the goal. So let's get you there. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here today. We really appreciate your time. And I hope this story inspires others to grow their practice and continue to thrive.
Thanks for having me.